Ladies and gentlemen, with plenty of time to go, welcome to day 112 of the Bible Hour. I believe that my camera is giving up the ghost. Look at that white stripe that I can't seem to get rid of anymore. It happened like the day before yesterday. Look at that. Chris Henry, look at that. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Park End Church admin in the house. Another successful car park communion, true that. Daniel chapter 5, Belshazzar's feast. Any questions? There's the links, parkendadminonit.com. Looks like Owen had a long day. Yeah, that was the thumbnail. Alright, Sue Roberts, my privilege. Chris Henry in the house. Diane Robbins in the house. He's usually yakking. Reg Freeman, I can't press play. Hey, I've got to press play for you. It's like a picture of the gospel. Ladies and gentlemen, I can't reveal the reason that there was a slight delay. It was twofold. Number one, I was trying to fix my broken camera, but I failed. Number two, let's just say that I've been planning something. EV cam. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, she is asleep. It's a beautiful thing. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, in 1 minute, we will be reading Daniel. I just need to get the Bible up. And according to the admin, we have made it to Daniel chapter 5, and he is right. So let's get that Bible there. Drop that to about there. Click that there. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, in this hour together, we read the Word of God and we ask two simple questions. What do we learn about Jesus? What do we learn about his church? We keep the main things the main things. Tomorrow, Howell George is preaching a sermon with us called First Things First. Also, after that, we are back here at 9 o'clock. Thank you to everyone that helped out in Car Park Communion today. I love Car Park Communion. People from Swansea travelled down to Car Park Communion. I met new people. That guy Pete, he brought his friend. His friend's coming back in 2 weeks with a gang. It's a glorious meeting. You should come along to Car Park Communion. How is Evie's urinary tract infection? Let's ask. How's your urinary tract infection? No response. Alright, ladies and gentlemen. So, Daniel chapter 5. Now, in some of your versions now, you're going to see like the word son Sun is used in the Bible. It's not a direct sun because there was someone reigning in between them. But some versions just won't have it at all. But sun is descendant of. And what I find funny with, well, depressing with Belshazzar is he had a record of Nebuchadnezzar being humbled, yet still he rebels against the living God. So let's jump in now. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God. The writing on the wall. Many years later, King Belshazzar gave a great feast for 1,000 of his nobles, and he drank wine with them. While Belshazzar was drinking the wine, he gave orders to bring in the gold and silver cups that his predecessor, Nebuchadnezzar, had taken from the temple of Jerusalem. He wanted to drink from them with his nobles, his wives, and his concubines. So they brought these gold cups taken from the temple, the house of God in Jerusalem, and the king and his nobles, his wives, and his concubines drank from them. While they drank from them, they praised their idols made of gold, silver, bronze, iron, wood, and stone. Suddenly, but mind you, we too can have possessions that we don't thank Jesus for or use for his service. Suddenly they saw the fingers of a human hand on the plaster wall of the king's palace near. Okay, what's happened there is I missed a word. So I'm going to read that sentence again. Suddenly they saw the fingers of a human hand writing on the plaster wall of the king's palace near the lampstand. The king himself saw the hand as it wrote, and his face turned pale with fright. His knees knocked together in fear, and his legs gave way beneath him. I've got no reason not to think that human hand is the same human / angel / physical person who's been featuring throughout this entire book. The Lord Jesus. The king shouted for the enchanters, astrologers, and fortune tellers to be brought before him. He said to these wise men of Babylon, "Who can read this writing and tell me what it means? Whoever can will be dressed in purple robes of royal honor and will have a gold chain placed around his neck. He will become the third highest ruler in the kingdom." But when all the king's wise men had come in, none of them could read the writing or tell him what it meant. Ladies and gentlemen, the phrase "the writing's on the wall," it's Daniel's. So the king grew even more alarmed and his face turned pale. His nobles too were shaken. But when the queen mother heard what was happening, she hurried to the banquet hall. She said to Belshazzar, "Long live the king! Don't be so pale and frightened. There is a man in your kingdom who has within him the spirit of the holy gods." During Nebuchadnezzar's reign, this man was found to have insight, understanding, and wisdom like that of the gods. Your predecessor, the king, your predecessor, King Nebuchadnezzar, made him chief over all the musicians, enchanters, astrologers, and fortune tellers of Babylon. This man Daniel, whom the king named Belteshazzar, has exceptional ability and is filled with divine knowledge and understanding. He can interpret dreams, explain riddles, and solve difficult problems. Call for Daniel, and he will tell you what the writing means. So Daniel's getting on a bit now, but he's still faithfully plodding on. People still know of him and what he's up to. serving the Lord. Chris Henry, why do I have a white stripe? Is my camera broken? Also, Chris Henry, my Mac restarted today and I've got that stupid background back again where I wanted the Teenage Mutant Hero Turtles background that I put on there. Daniel explains the writing. So Daniel was brought in before the king. The king asked him, "Are you Daniel, one of the exiles brought from Judah by my predecessor, King Nebuchadnezzar? I have heard that you have the spirit of the gods within you, and that you are filled with insight, understanding, and wisdom. My wise men and enchanters have tried to read the words on the wall and tell me their meaning, but they cannot do it. I am told that you can give interpretations and solve problems, and if you can read the words and tell me their meaning, you will be clothed in purple robes of royal honor, and you will have a gold chain placed around your neck. You will become the third highest ruler in the kingdom." Chris Henry, I told you yesterday, but you ignored me. Chris Henry, have you been eating too much of that cheese again that makes you think things that don't happen? I think it's the flare down the lens. Try tipping your backlight down. I can't. Evie's on the sofa. I'll do it in the break when she goes. Daniel answered the king, "Keep your gifts or give them to someone else, but I will tell you what the writing means." Daniel is he's not in it for the money. "Your Majesty, the most holy God, gave sovereignty, majesty, glory, and honor to your predecessor, Nebuchadnezzar. He made him so great that people of all races and nations and languages trembled before him in fear. He killed those he wanted to kill and spared those he wanted to spare. He honored those he wanted to honor and disgraced those he wanted to disgrace. But when his heart and mind were puffed up with arrogance, he was brought down from his royal throne and stripped of his glory. He was driven from human society. He was given the mind of a wild animal, and he lived among the wild donkeys. He ate grass like a cow, and he was drenched with the dew of heaven until he learned that the Most High God rules over the kingdoms of the world and appoints anyone he desires to rule over them. You are his successor." Now, you might have there son. So that's the classic Hebrew descendants. They often miss generations out. They either say so-and-so begat so-and-so, but it might be talking about great-grandchild, or they say son, sometimes just skipping generations. "You are his successor, O Belshazzar, and you knew all this, yet you have not humbled yourself, for you have proudly defied the Lord of heaven, and have had these cups from his temple brought before you. You and your nobles and your wives and concubines have been drinking wine from them while praising gods of silver, gold, bronze, iron, wood, and stone, gods that neither see nor hear, nor know anything at all. But you have not honored the God who gives you the breath of life and controls your destiny. So God has sent this hand to write this message. This message that was written. This is the message that was written. Mene, Mene, Tekel, and Parsin. This is what these words mean. Mene means numbered. God has numbered the days of your reign and has brought it to an end. Tekel means weighed. You have been weighed on the balances and have not measured up. Parsin means divided. Your kingdom has been divided and given to the Medes and the Persians. Sue Roberts. Oh, fabulous, not Sue Roberts. You're waffling, dude. Yeah. I was briefly speaking those words. It's all in the text, man. Welcome on in, Fabio Souza, which I thought was Sue Roberts. Sounds like Sue Roberts, but sort of an Italian or Spanish version. Then, at Belshazzar's command, Daniel was dressed in purple robes. A gold chain was hung around his neck, and he was proclaimed the third highest ruler in the kingdom. That very night, Belshazzar, the Babylonian king, was killed, and Darius the Mede took over the kingdom at the age of 62. Ladies and gentlemen, don't go messing with the Lord's stuff, because he cares. Right, let me try and just alter the lighting. Hold on a minute. If I do this, you can see live action Evie cam as I change the lighting. So there's Evie. Try not to disturb her. Up I go. Okay, she did not wake up. Okay, well, I have altered the light, but it is still there. Some say worse than ever. Look at that, it's right there. I think the camera's broken. Mind you, it has done a solid 112 days in a row. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, is this the most famous chapter in the Bible? It is Daniel chapter 6. So I just want to get a few things straight here. The Cyrus timings was like 600 to 530 BC. He defeated the Medes, the Lydians, then the Babylonians at 539. Darius was one of his senior leaders and then took control at 522 BC. Here we go. Darius the Mede decided to divide the kingdom into 120 provinces. If this was a Bible study, we would stop there and look at 120 or 12 in the Bible, but we're keeping on. Just know that he basically is the Don of the world. And he appointed a high officer to rule over each province. The king also chose Daniel and 2 others as administrators to supervise the high officers and protect the king's interests. Daniel soon proved himself more capable than all other administrators and high officers. Because of Daniel's great ability, the king made plans to place him over the entire empire. Then the other administrators and high officers began searching for some fault in the way Daniel was handling government affairs, but they couldn't find anything to criticize or condemn. What a testimony for Daniel. Nothing. He was faithful, always responsible, and completely trustworthy. So they concluded our only chance of finding grounds for accusing Daniel will be in connection with the rules of his religion. So the administrators and high officers went to the king and said, "Long live King Darius." We are all in agreement. We administrators, officials, high officers, advisors, and governors, that the king should make a law that will be strictly enforced. Give orders that for the next 30 days, any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions. And now, your majesty, issue and sign this law so it cannot be changed, an official law of the Medes and the Persians that cannot be revoked. So King Darius signed the law. I just need to pause there, ladies and gentlemen, because it's now time for Evie to leave. Evie, gotta go now. You gotta go, you big lump. Oops. Okay, so my butt was awfully close to being aired on live TV there. And you all saw my pyjama bottoms because we got so soaked in the dog walk late this afternoon, I had to have a shower. So King Darius signed the law. But when Daniel learned that the law had been signed, he went home and knelt down in his usual place in his upstairs room with its windows open toward Jerusalem. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he had always done, giving thanks to his God. She's got to wake up now, Rachel Freeman, otherwise she'll be asleep now and then wake up all through the night. He prayed 3 times a day, just as he had always done, giving thanks to his God. Then the officials went together to Daniel's house and found him praying and asking for God's help. So they went straight to the king and reminded him about this law. Did you not sign a law that for the next 30 days any person who prays to anyone, divine or human, except to you, your majesty, will be thrown into the den of lions? Yes, the king replied. That decision stands. It is an official law of the Medes and the Persians that cannot be revoked. There are various places in the Bible. Oh, Parker and Admin, could you post 1 Peter chapter 5, verse 8? Welcome on in, Nick Hawkins. 1 Peter 5, verse 8. There are lots of references in the Bible, and we've had a few in the Old Testament already. The lion thing is no mere accident. Lions are like the most ferocious and fierce creatures and are often used as symbols of evil sweeping and devouring a land. Satan himself is, of course, the lion looking to devour whom he will. So Parker and Am is just going to post that and then I'll crack on. Be alert and of sober mind. Your enemy, the devil, prowls around like a roaring lion, looking for someone to devour. So there's a layer going on here. Behind this attack on the ancient faithful church member Daniel, there are powers of Satan. Then they told the king, that man Daniel, one of the captives from Judah, is ignoring you and your law. He still prays to his God 3 times a day. Hearing this, the king was deeply troubled, and he tried to think of a way to save Daniel. He spent the rest of the day looking for a way to get Daniel out of this predicament. I've always found it fascinating that he is the man of mans, and he can't even get out of this. I also find it fascinating that what's Daniel's answer to all of these problems? Pray. Carry on praying. In the evening, the men went together to the king and said, Your Majesty, You know that according to the law of the Medes and the Persians, no law that the king signs can be changed. So at last, the king gave orders for Daniel to be arrested and thrown into the den of lions. The king said to him, "May your God, whom you serve so faithfully, rescue you." A stone was brought and placed over the mouth of the den. The king sealed the stone with his own royal seal and the seals of his nobles, so that no one could rescue Daniel. Then the king returned to his palace and spent the night fasting. He refused his usual entertainment and couldn't sleep at all that night. Very early the next morning, the king got up and hurried out to the lion's den. When he got there, he called out in anguish, "Daniel, servant of the living God, was your God, whom you serve so faithfully, able to rescue you from the lions?" Daniel answered, "Long live the king! My God sent his angel to shut the lions' mouths so that they would not hurt me, for I have been found innocent in his sight, and I have not wronged you, Your Majesty." The king was overjoyed and ordered that Daniel be lifted from the den. Not a scratch was found on him, for he had trusted in his God. One of my books says, thinking about parts of Isaiah and Isaiah 11, the Messiah coming will bring peace to even the animal kingdom, and cats are killers of the you know, like your pet cat that you might have. Like a cat is a killer of the night, red in fang and claw. But in the arms of you, the owner, the cat is tame. And so it is with Jesus. When he gets his hands on the lions now, but in the world to come, he's their owner. And they live peaceful lives. That's part of the new heavens and the new earth it's going to be. Lion and lamb will lay down with each other. Red in fang and claw. I think it's funny anyway. The king was overjoyed, not a scratch found on him, for he had trusted in his God. Then the king gave orders to arrest the men who had maliciously accused Daniel. He had thrown them into the lion's den along with their wives and children. The lions leaped on them and tore them apart before they even hit the floor of the den. Then King Darius sent this message to the people of every race and nation and language throughout the world: peace and prosperity to you. I decree that everyone throughout my kingdom should tremble with fear before the God of Daniel, for he is the living God, and he will endure forever. Give thanks to the Lord, the living God. His love endures forever. His kingdom will never be destroyed, and his rule will never end. He rescues and saves his people. He performs miraculous signs and wonders in the heavens and on earth. He has rescued Daniel from the power of the lions. And ladies and gentlemen, we trust in Jesus. Today we celebrated that in the car park. He has defeated the lion, disarmed him, made a spectacle of him and those powers and principalities of darkness. So Daniel prospered during the reign of Darius and the reign of Cyrus the Persian. Ladies and gentlemen, there's the halfway mark of today's Bible hour. Now take 112 seconds to go and eat a turnip and then come back. You should probably eat just vegetables. because of Daniel, but also because you need fuel, because I'm slowing it right down for chapter 7, because it may be the best chapter in the whole Bible. So ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you after the break. His love endures forever. I would say we failed in fixing this broken white stripe, Chris Henry. That's what I would say. Oh yeah. Now then, let's have a look at something here. Just looking something up. Check this out, right? My friend told me to read a footnote in one of the books we've got in Daniel about eating. Listen to this. You know that Daniel ate the veggies and the Lord blessed him. This is surely a challenge to those of us who are used to eating luxurious or junk food all the time. For many of us, our diets come at great expense, not so much for our own finances, but for those who produce this food and for the environment. Used to eating quantities of meat for nearly every meal, our diets place a huge demand not only on the world but also on our own bodies. What if, in the name of Jesus, we were to simplify and reduce our basic diet? What if simple vegetables, bread, pasta, rice and fruit were to form the majority of our food? I would drop pasta and bread from that because it's crazy processed these days. What if water with no additions were to be our standard drink? See the information on www.peopleandplanet.net. The World Wildlife Fund has a fascinating Living Planet report looking at some of the issues of consumerism. Christian Aid has valuable resources, christianaid.co.uk. Food for thought there. Move the camera to your left and we will see if the white bar moves across the curtains. Let's have a look. This white mark appeared about 2 days ago. Alright, now then, welcome on back to Daniel chapter 7. A few things. In fact, what I'll do, I'll read it all and then say a few things. Daniel's vision of the 4 beasts. Earlier, during the first... so the first 6, by the way, were sort of chronological. Now, we're going to be interjecting with visions at different points through the first 6 chapters. Earlier... Does the lamp need to be high? The lamp is as high as it's ever been. It's as high as it goes, my man. Or is it? I'll check that out. Earlier, during the first year of King Belshazzar's reign in Babylon, Daniel had a dream and saw visions as he lay in his bed. He wrote down the dream, and this is what he saw. So we're at Belshazzar's reign. In my vision that night, I, Daniel, saw a great storm churning the surface of a great sea, with strong winds blowing from every direction. Then 4 huge beasts came up out of the water, each different from the others. Park End admin, can you get ready to post, but don't do it yet, Mark 14:62. That might be the wrong verse, but I think it's Mark 14:62. Then 4 huge beasts came out of the water, each different from the others. The first beast was like a lion with eagle's wings. As I watched, its wings were pulled off, and it was left standing with its 2 hind feet on the ground like a human being. It was given a human mind. Then I saw a second beast, and it looked like a bear. It was rearing up on one side, and it had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth. And I heard a voice saying to it, "Get up, devour the flesh of many people." Then the third of these strange beasts appeared, and it looked like a leopard. It had 4 birds' wings on its back, and it had 4 heads. Great authority was given to this beast. Then in my vision that night I saw a 4th beast, terrifying, dreadful, and very strong. It devoured and crushed its victims with huge iron teeth and trampled their remains beneath its feet. It was different from any of the other beasts, and it had 10 horns. As I was looking at the horns, suddenly another small horn appeared among them. 3 of the first horns were torn out by the roots to make room for it. This little horn had eyes like human eyes and a mouth that was boasting arrogantly. I watched as thrones were put in place, and the Ancient One sat down to judge. What might you have instead of Ancient One? Ancient of Days you've probably got. I personally prefer that. His clothing was as white as snow, his hair like purest wool. He sat on a fiery throne with wheels of blazing fire, and a river as fire was pouring out, flowing from his presence. Millions of angels ministered to him. Many millions stood to attend him. Then the court began its session, and the books were opened. I continued to watch because I could hear the little horn's boastful speech. I kept watching until the 4th beast was killed and its body was destroyed by fire. The other 3 beasts had their authority taken from them, but they were allowed to live a while longer. As my vision continued that night, I saw someone like a son of man coming with the clouds of heaven. He approached the Ancient One and was led into his presence. Ladies and gentlemen, who has always been the one able to walk into the presence of the Ancient of Days? It's all the way through the Psalms. It's all the way through Exodus. It's what the priesthood has always been about. And here he is again. He approached the Ancient of Days and was led into his presence. He was given authority, honor, and sovereignty over all the nations of the world, so that people of every race and nation and language would obey him. His rule is eternal, and it will never end. His kingdom, ladies and gentlemen, will never be destroyed. Daniel's the best book in the Bible. I, Daniel, was troubled by all I had seen, and my visions terrified me. So I approached one of those standing beside the throne and asked him what it all meant. He explained it to me like this: these 4 huge beasts represent 4 kingdoms that will arise from the earth. But in the end, the holy people of the Most High will be given the kingdom, and they will rule forever and forever. And at Car Park Communion today, we celebrated the chief of staff, the prince of that kingdom, the lord of that kingdom, and how he managed to get people like us into his kingdom. Best meeting ever. Then I wanted to know the true meaning of the 4th beast, the one so different from the others and so terrifying. It had devoured and crushed its victims with iron teeth and bronze claws, trampling their remains beneath its feet. I also asked about the little horn that came up afterwards and destroyed 3 of the other horns. This horn had seemed greater than the others, and it had human eyes and a mouth that was boasting arrogantly. As I watched, this horn was waging war against God's holy people and was defeating them until the Ancient One, the Most High, came and judged in favor of his holy people. Then the time arrived for the holy people to take over the kingdom. Then he said to me, this 4th beast is the 4th world power that will rule the earth. It will be different from all the others. It will devour the whole world, trampling and crushing everything in its path. Its 10 horns are 10 kings who will rule that empire. Then another king will arise, different from the other 10, who will subdue 3 of them. He will defy the Most High and oppress the people, the holy people of the Most High. He will try to change their sacred festivals and laws, and they will be placed under his control for a time, and for a time, times, and half a time. That's different in different languages, and we'll get into that later. But then the court will pass judgment, and all his power will be taken away and completely destroyed. Then the sovereignty, power, and greatness of all the kingdoms under heaven will be given to the holy people of the Most High. His kingdom will last forever, and all rulers will serve and obey him. That was the end of the vision. I, Daniel, was terrified by my thoughts, and my face was pale with fear, but I kept these things to myself. Okay, Evie's very hairy. So it's probable that the 4th beast there, because the number 4 throughout scriptures is a picture of the world, it's probable that the 4th beast there, rather than a specific kingdom, is just a picture of any and every and all nations that try to wage war against the living God. The sea from which they came from, the sea is always a symbol in the Bible of chaos, rebellion, the abyss, and this is like world rebellion. The wind is stirring up these powers to fight. The beasts, Babylon, Persia, Greece, then Rome, or all human kingdoms. That's the number 4. So the 4th might be Rome. 10 horns, 10 in the Bible, and these ancient hearers would have known the number symbolism. 10 horns, totality. This beast is demanding total and all obedience. The 1 horn is likely Vespasian. Oh, and you said that wrong. All right. However, my problem is I've read books for the last, however old I am. And the books I read, I don't really hear ever people talk about. So I don't know how you say these words. Vespasian, Vespasian, with his son Titus, they destroyed the temple in AD 70. And Jesus prophesied this too in Luke 19. So there's that horn. Probably. Now then. I just want to reread verse 10 and 11. We're stopping here because it's so important. Verse 10 and 11. Or 9 and 10. I watched as thrones were put in place and the Ancient of Days sat down to judge. That's the Father. And in 13 and 14, this Son of Man who just approaches the Father is Jesus. Because Jesus is the one who can ascend the holy hill of Zion. Because he has clean hands and a pure heart. That's why that priest had us on his shoulders and chest, because we just jump on his shoulders and ride on in. This scene, by the way, in heaven is also seen by John in Revelation 4 and 19, and John just falls down dead when he sees this stuff going on. Ladies and gentlemen, there is an equal. There is an equal to the Ancient of Days. You know who that is. Now, the Pharisees went nuts because the one true God is the Ancient of Days, and now his equal is the Son of Man. So Ricky B is just going to post Mark 14:62, the climax. This would have been an absolute bombshell. This led to the death and murder of Jesus. Here, he claims to be the divine Son of Man from Daniel 7, and the one sitting on the throne of Psalm 110 verse 1. I mean, it's Ricky B, post that, man. Let's get that. I am, says Jesus. So that'll do it in and of itself. And you will see the Son of Man sitting at the right hand of the Mighty One and coming from the clouds of heaven. I mean, that was game over for Jesus as far as the religious leaders were concerned. All right, let's roll on into chapter 8. In chapter 8, we sort of go beyond now. He starts looking now. He's in a place which is nothing at the time, but it becomes a seminal place of significance under Persia. So check this out. Where's my Bible gone? Daniel 8. Daniel's vision of a ram and goat. During the 3rd year of King Belshazzar's reign, I, Daniel, saw another vision, following the one that had already appeared to me. In this vision, I was at the fortress of Susa. You're like, hey, I remember that from the Persian stories with Esther. Yeah. And the province of Elam, standing beside the Ulai River. As I looked up, I saw a ram with 2 long horns standing beside the river. One of the horns was longer than the other, even though it had grown later than the other one. The ram butted everything out of its way to the west, to the north, and to the south, and no one could stand against him or help his victims. He did as he pleased and became very great. While I was watching, suddenly a male goat appeared from the west, crossing the land so swiftly that he didn't even touch the ground. This goat, which had one very large horn between its eyes, headed toward the 2-horned ram that I had seen standing beside the river, rushing at him in a rage. So, most scholars will say that was Alexander the Great of the Greek or the Grecian Empire. Now, that empire, by the way, was broken off then into 4 sub-kingdoms, which in and of itself vied for power, which we'll get to in a bit. So this is world history. The goat charged furiously at the ram and struck him, breaking off both his horns. Now the ram was helpless and the goat knocked him down and trampled him. No one could rescue the ram from the goat's power. The goat became very powerful, but at the height of its power, his large horn was broken off. In the large horn's place grew 4 prominent horns pointing in the 4 directions of the south. Check something out interesting. I got a little diagram here of the kingdoms after they got broken up after Alexander. Look at this one. What am I doing there? Where, oh, there it is. Got it. Hosea. Yeah, right. Here we go. 8. Where's it gone? Ah! Check this out. This easy to follow, quick and simple graph. There you go, people. That's the kind of reading we get up to in our spare time. So that's what... Well, that happened. And Jesus just knocks them all down. Lots of Jesus-hating people in that group. Ptolemy, Seleucus, Ptolemy II, Antiochus Epiphanes. He was a bad one. We'll get to him later as well. Point being, this is no mere fanciful story, people, like your grandparents made up. This played out in world history, because world history is Jesus is history. Then, from one of the prominent horns came a small horn whose power grew very great. It extended towards the south and the east and toward the glorious land of Israel. Its power reached to the heavens, where it attacked the heavenly army, throwing some of the heavenly beings and some of the stars to the ground and trampling them. It even challenged the commander of heaven's army by cancelling the daily sacrifices offered to him and by destroying his temple. So that would have been Antiochus Epiphanes or whatever, who for a while ransacked the temple and started sacrificing pigs to Zeus. The ultimate insult. Pigs, mind, in the Old Testament, to Zeus in the temple. The army of heaven was restrained from responding to this rebellion. So the daily sacrifice was halted and truth was overthrown. The horn succeeded in everything it did. Then I heard 2 holy ones talking to each other. One of them said, "How long will the events of this vision last? How long will the rebellion that causes desecration stop the daily sacrifices? How long will the temple and heaven's armies be trampled on?" The other replied, "It will take 2,300 evenings and mornings. Then the temple will be made right again." That's an interesting way of phrasing that. They've called it evenings and mornings. I bet not all of you have got it written like that. Gabriel explains the vision. He's always popping up, Gabriel, to sort out people's dreams, isn't he? "As I, Daniel, was trying to understand the meaning of this vision, someone who looks like a man stood in front of me. And I heard a human voice calling out from the Ulai River, 'Gabriel, tell this man the meaning of his vision.' As Gabriel approached the place where I was standing, I became so terrified that I fell with my face to the ground. 'Son of man,' he said, 'you must understand that the events you have seen in your vision relate to the time of the end.' While I was speaking, I fainted and lay there with my face to the ground. But Gabriel roused me with a touch and helped me to my feet. Then he said, 'I am here to tell you what will happen later in the time of wrath. What you have seen pertains to the very end of time. The 2-horned ram represents the kings of Media and Persia. The shaggy male goat represents the king of Greece, and the large horn between his eyes represents the first king of the Greek Empire. The 4 prominent horns that replace the 1 large horn show that the Greek Empire will break into 4 kingdoms, but none as great as the first. At the end of their rule, when their sin is at its height, a fierce king, a master of intrigue, will rise to power. He will become very strong, but not by his own power. He will cause a shocking amount of destruction and succeed in everything he does. He will destroy powerful leaders and devastate the holy people. He will be a master of deception and will become arrogant. He will destroy many without warning. He will even take on the prince of princes in battle, but he will be broken. though not by human power. This vision about the 2,300 evenings and mornings is true, but none of these things will happen for a long time, so keep this vision a secret. Then I, Daniel, was overcome, and I lay sick for several days. Afterward I got up and performed my duties for the king, but I was greatly troubled by the vision and could not understand it. It's no small thing to see sacrifices and everything you know stopped and evil surrounding you. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it is the last chunky monkey, chapter 9 of this evening, So, check this out in chapter 9. Daniel's away from the temple, but he wants the people to have proper worship in the heart, real temple worship. And what I love is he prays for the whole church. Daniel 9, I think, has the best prayer in the whole Bible. Well, I probably can't say that because Jesus prays a few times. So I'm going to say one of the best prayers in the Bible. Then I'll end by giving the most amazing mathematical equation. It was the first year of the reign of Darius the Mede, the son of Ahasuerus, who had become king of the Babylonians. During the first year of his reign, I, Daniel, learned from reading the word of the Lord, as revealed to Jeremiah the prophet, that Jerusalem must lie desolate for 70 years. Daniel loves his Bible. So I turned to the Lord and pleaded with him in prayer and fasting. I also wore rough burlap and sprinkled myself with ashes. I prayed to the Lord my God and confessed, O Lord, you are a great and awesome God. You always fulfill your covenant and keep your promises of unfailing love to those who love you and obey your commands. But we have sinned and done wrong. We have rebelled against you and scorned your commands and regulations. We have refused to listen to your servants, the prophets, who spoke on your authority to our kings and princes and ancestors and to all the people of the land. Public confession on behalf of the church. Massive thing, should be a thing today as well. Down with Western individualism. Lord, you are in the right. But as you see, our faces are covered with shame. This is true of all of us, including the people of Judah and Jerusalem and all Israel scattered near and far, wherever you have driven us because of our disloyalty to you. It is probably the best chapter ever, Ben Ricketts. Check this out. O Lord, we and our kings, princes and ancestors are covered with shame because we have sinned against you. But the Lord our God is merciful and forgiving, even though we have rebelled against him. We have not obeyed the Lord our God, for we have not followed the instructions he gave us through his servants the prophets. All Israel has disobeyed your instruction and turned away, refusing to listen to your voice. So now the solemn curses and judgments written in the law of Moses, the servant of God, had been poured down on us because of our sin. You have kept your word and done to us and our rulers exactly as you warned. Never has there been such a disaster as happened in Jerusalem. Every curse written against us in the law of Moses has come true, obviously. Moses. Yet we have refused to seek mercy from the Lord our God by turning from our sins and recognizing this truth. Therefore, the Lord has brought upon us the disaster he prepared. The Lord our God was right to do all of these things, for we did not obey him. O Lord, you brought lasting honor to your name by rescuing your people from Egypt in a great display of power. But we have sinned and are full of wickedness. In view of all your faithful mercies, Lord, please turn your furious anger away from your city, Jerusalem, your holy mountain. All the neighboring nations mock Jerusalem and your people because of our sins and the sins of our ancestors. O our God, hear your servant's prayer. Listen as I plead. For your own sake, Lord, smile again on your desolate sanctuary. Note, he is not praying, Lord, because I'm good enough and I've earned a blessing and I've done all right this week, now you owe me a blessing. He's like, no, I'm a sinner. It's on you now. You must bless. My God, lean down and listen to me. Open your eyes and see our despair. See how your city, the city that bears your name, lies in ruins. We make this plea not because we deserve your help, but because of your mercy. It's better in another version, which is something like, we ask this not because of our righteousness, but because you are rich in mercy. O Lord, hear. Lord, forgive. Lord, listen and act. For your own sake, do not delay. My God, for your people and your city bear your name. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm stopping there because I don't need to get to the mathematical bit. We'll start with blowing our minds with that tomorrow. I'm going to end there because it's 10 o'clock, but also I don't think there is a better verse in the Bible than Daniel chapter 9 verse 18. Now let me read it in this one more time. And we celebrated this today in the car park, and we celebrate it now as we go to sleep. This is the difference between Jesus Christ and the God of Christianity than the God of Islam, the God of the JWs, the God of any other who demands our perfection. Listen to this. O Lord. Listen to this, that's the wrong chapter. My God, incline your ear and hear. Open your eyes and see our desolations. For we do not present our pleas before you because of our righteousness, but because of your great mercy. Ladies and gentlemen, your hope tonight is the ever-flowing, ceaseless mercy of Jesus Christ. And I pray you have a lovely night's sleep because of that. God willing, we will be back here at 6. Hey, where's North Star? We will be back here at 6 p.m. tomorrow, live on YouTube, and then 9 p.m. This is the word of the Lord. Thanks be to God.